To respond to that question, I would respond in the most traditional way, which would be to return to the question of poetry, or poesis. So, from the Greeks forward, poetry has been the fusion of form and content. Not Not argument and meter, but meter making argument would be the prosodic form of poetry, and of a poetry that's the fusion of form and content. What makes digital poetics and digital literature maybe more generally more interesting or important to a contemporary space is that, unlike the novel, which would be able to operate within the parameters of a novel, has narrative, it would be able to describe the functions of digital culture in a larger society from within a narrative framework. Its poetics can only be bound to that page, to the kind of codex, to the linearity, to type, whether or not that's in a book form or online or wherever you happen to encounter those words. There's a kind of format expectation. For digital poetics, the question really is how to have form and content speak to each other within digital parameters, within a format that's built on screens and databases and networks. How to use that format, to use the form of the database to express content also about the database, right, about digital culture or the contemporary society or whatever, what have you. Digital poetics would be important insofar as it's able to demonstrate things about digital culture that you couldn't otherwise access. So it would be incredibly hard to imagine an algorithm, to imagine what a database looks like. To explain that, I wouldn't be able to do that in a paragraph. But the best works of digital poetry would be able to present that to its user, to someone who is reading or using a digital poem. They'd be able to have a sense of an algorithm, how it operates, how a database functions, about how their own daily interactions with cell phones or computers is actually working on them and working through them.
Okay, so it's also a way of letting us know how we use those new platforms to get more information about our own interaction with those platforms, actually.
Right. You'd be hard-pressed to find a single human being that's not plugged into these platforms in one way or another. So it would open up how they use it, but also how these platforms are using them. That might be the more interesting question.
Yes.
How is a human used by its technology? And what particular aspects of life are determined by these technologies? That's the question for digital poetics, and that's what makes digital poetics relevant to any contemporary viewer.